This video series will be on clarinet reed making. I've been wanting to do this project for quite some time, but I haven't had the time to do it. Now I find myself with a lot of time on my hands, and so I thought I'd give it a shot. It took me about 5 years total to learn how to make clarinet reeds, or at least clarinet reeds that played the way that I wanted them to play. I have it grouped into 3 different stages, with each stage having several steps. Stage 1 includes selecting the cane, splitting the cane, marking the splits, and cutting the splits to length. Selecting the cane, I get my cane from RDG Woodwinds, which is located in Los Angeles, California. It's the best cane that I've been able to find. I've tried several other sources, but RDG is the one I always come back to. Splitting the cane is a simple process. You get better at gauging what you're looking at with the symmetry and how the splits, when you're done with a tube of cane, you end up with 4 splits, and how best to split that. I have what I think works for me. Marking the splits, I have a little piece of wood that I use to see where the flattest sections are, and then I mark that. And then cutting the splits to length, I do that on my chop saw with a jig that I created to get the length to be exact. Stage 2 includes planing the cane flat, sanding the cane flat, shaping the blanks, first cut each blank on my first cut jig, and then sanding each blank to a specified thickness. Planing the cane flat, I have a router sled that I built, and my router rides in it, and in 2 passes I hog off most of the material for each blank, and then I only have about 15 swipes left with the block plane, which makes it a lot faster than when I was doing it just with a block plane, and it was taking maybe 115 to 120 swipes. So you can see that it cuts the amount of work down drastically. After each one of the blanks is planed flat, then they get sanded flat. I use a piece of glass with sandpaper that has spray adhesive, and then I glue it down to the glass, and it has a really nice flat surface. It makes it easy to sand the blanks flat. Then I shape the blanks using a tool that I purchased from Greg James and a chisel, and I'll be going over where I got it and what the cost of each one of these tools was. But it gives it that angled shape of a clarinet reed. And then I do on another tool that I bought from Greg James, the first cut. And the first cut takes off the majority of the material before you profile, so you don't wear out your profiling blade prematurely. So you take off the majority of the material with what's called a first cut. And then each blank after the first cut gets sanded to a specified thickness, so then it's ready for stage 3. Finally, stage 3. During this stage, I take 5 blanks at a time, and the first step is to sand with 220 grit sandpaper to a specified thickness just behind the first cut of 0.126 thousandths of an inch. After I do all 5 reeds, I get them all wet. I don't soak them for a long time. I just get them wet and make sure that they've been soaked, and then I put them on their backs to dry overnight. The next day, I sand the same process, using the same process with 400 grit sandpaper this time, and again, get them wet and let them dry on their backs. The third day is the final sanding, but before I do the sanding, I put them up on their side with a block of wood to keep the reed 90 degrees to the sandpaper, and I polish the sides of the reeds, and this is to a width, a specified width. After that, then I do the final sanding, and the sanding has a pattern to it, which I'll show you when we get there, and I do the pattern the same time every time, shooting for a thickness this time in the final sanding of 0.123 thousandths of an inch. After that final sanding, they're now ready for profiling. The reed profiler that I use is the UL RPM 68. It's the best one in my opinion. I haven't used them all, but I researched them all before I ended up settling on this one. And it's very accurate and very easy to use and very fast. At this stage, I profile each one of the reeds, and after they're profiled, I clip them. When the reeds are clipped, they're now ready to be played for the first time. But in most cases I will store them in a reed case until I'm ready to break in those 5 reeds. So that's the overview of my 3-stage process for making clarinet reeds. In the videos to come, I'll be taking each stage and showing you each step in detail, why I do what I do, what the processes are, what tools I use. I have a feeling this is just going to be mostly entertaining. I'm entertained by things like this, so I thought I'd throw what I have out there to entertain others. And then maybe if somebody watches this and they can pick up a tip or two in their clarinet reed making process, or even share with me what they do to help me further refine what I do. I'm pretty happy with the reeds, the way they're coming out. I can get 5 out of 5 of them in the batches that I make to play. Of course, not all of them are perfect, but they'll play, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I look forward to hearing your input, and I hope that you enjoy and are entertained by this process of clarinet reed making. Thank you.